You, the people, have the power. You, the people, have the power. Let us all unite. Let us all unite.
Good morning and welcome to the Frontline.Army daily news show. Please go and subscribe to our newsletter. It's completely uncensored, and in this day and age, that's something you want to be having. It is completely free, as is at the moment this show, which you can catch on Patreon, Real Truth 502. If you want to subscribe to the newsletter, just type in the Frontline.Army and go and see our content. I am joined by the wonderful Truth Wars James Atkinson today, and our my regular co-host Lee Slaughter. Good morning, gentlemen. How are we?
Good morning.
Good morning, Warren. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for having me again.
You're more than welcome, buddy. Always welcome with your views on here. And we always like budding celebrities to come and visit the show. Lee, let's start with you, mate. We're going to be talking about the UK border, aren't we? What's going on there, Lee? Do we have a little something to look at?
Yeah, it's really a story about the hypocrisy of the government, the opposition, Parliament in general. And it's this. We're talking about a policy of sending illegal migrants to Rwanda. Well, at the same time, the British government is hiring private boats at a cost of £36 million to go out into the Channel and bring the migrants back to the UK.
So they've already had their money then?
Yeah, the level of hypocrisy here is just staggering. On the one hand, they're telling the public that they're going to manage migration and stop it and stop the boats, and we're going to bring migration, legal and illegal migration, down from 747,000 people a year net migration down to tens and tens of thousands. At the same time, they're refusing to stop the boats crossing and to patrol the Channel and to secure our border, whilst at the same time sending the Royal Navy halfway around the world to protect other people's borders. And then we're paying private organizations to bring these migrants from France to the UK. And this is not the first story like this. There was a journalist 5 or 6 years ago who lost his job for turning his camera around when they were picking migrants up in the Mediterranean. And he turned his camera around and the Libyan beach was 200 or 300 yards away. And he lost his job. And so this is the hypocrisy of the political class, whereby on the one hand, they tell the public they're going to stop it and they're going to reverse it and they're going to do what the public wants. And at the same time, they're working with the United Nations agenda for the 21st century on the UN's population replacement policy to bring all of these people across. And then this will link to another story that we're going to cover later on with regard to conscription and war. But this story really highlights the hypocrisy of Sunak and his government, but also of Starmer and the opposition, who know about this as well, and they don't make any issues of it. And
yeah, they don't. Yeah, and that's a perfect, that's what makes me laugh as well, Lee. Like you say, the hypocrisy. But why don't they pull them on this? Why don't they double down and go in? What an opportunity. The whole fucking country is up in arms about this. If they had anything about them, they genuinely, it just infuriates me. This is an opening. Starmer, we all know he's not got any fucking kind of backbone whatsoever. Useless cunt. Absolutely useless.
Yeah, they all are.
36 million. That's probably per year as well.
It is per year. So it's an annual issue. But think the RNLI. The RNLI spends more time picking migrants up in the Channel and bringing them to the UK rather than taking them back to France. And this is that is their main job now, RNLI, and they get paid by the government.
This is absolutely crazy.
It's outrageous.
We've got a Royal Navy crashing into each other in the Gulf, and we've got nobody patrolling the Channel to protect our border. We've got a bunch of moronic idiots running the country. In the entire Parliament, Westminster Parliament, both houses. There is, as far as I'm aware, one member of both houses, Andrew Bridgen, who has the strength of character to speak up for the country. And that's on a specific issue with regard to sudden death, excess deaths. The whole of Parliament knows what's going on. All the parties parties know what's going on. And this story really is just encapsulates the hypocrisy of
It's
what
so poor, isn't it? It's so poor. Just you're rightly just one man. That is it. One guy. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we covered Kerry Lake having the strength of character to say no to these people yesterday. We've got Andrew Bridgen in this country who's said no and stood up. But the rest of them are going along with all of this in both countries, in both parties, in both sets of houses, Congress, Westminster, the Senate, Lords. And this is happening at an EU level. It comes from the United Nations with their population replacement policy. And up to now, anybody that has said that has been attacked in the media and called a conspiracy theorist or an extreme right winger. And we'll get on to extreme right wingers later on in the show as well.
Oh, let's never mind the extreme right wingers. When we're talking about total hypocrisy, Lee, can I just give you a quick look at something here? Richard Sunak, let's have a little look what he did in the House or didn't do in the Houses of Parliament, gentlemen.
Mr. Speaker, last night, as Tory MPs were once again fighting amongst themselves, the public were sat at home watching John Irvine of ITV News report on footage from Gaza of an unarmed Palestinian man walking under a white flag, being shot and killed by the IDF. Prime Minister, such an act constitutes a war crime, does it not?
Mr. Speaker, we've been absolutely consistent that international humanitarian law should be respected and civilians should be protected. I've made that point expressly to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and the Foreign Secretary is in the region this week making exactly the same point.
Stephen Flynn.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom to rise to that dispatch box and tell the people of these Isles and elsewhere that shooting an unarmed man walking under a white flag is a war crime. Now, in recent weeks, this House has acted with urgency and intent following an ITV drama. The question is, will this House now show the same urgency and intent following this ITV news report? And finally, back a ceasefire in Gaza.
Mr. Speaker, no one wants to see this conflict go on for a moment longer than necessary, and we do want to see an immediate and sustained humanitarian pause to get more aid in and, crucially, the hostages out, helping create the conditions for a sustainable ceasefire. I set out the conditions for that earlier in the House. The Foreign Secretary is in the region today, and will continue to press all our allies and partners to make sure that we can bring about that outcome.
Couldn't quite do it, could he?
So we've got a man here whose father-in-law. We're talking about ties with Infosys and Israeli ties. This man can't even stand up in the Houses of Parliament and call out a war crime. This is hypocrisy on a huge level, gentlemen, isn't it?
This sums up the World Economic Forum in its entirety. Let's not forget, almost the entire front bench of the Tory party and most of the front bench of the Labour Party are World Economic Forum young global leaders. Sunak, Hunt, Cleverly, I forget the rest of them. These people are doing the bidding of the World Economic Forum. They're doing the bidding of the United Nations and the agenda for the 21st century. These people are treasonous, and I'll say the word, and they need to be held accountable for this. There is absolutely no way a leading frontline politician in a Western Christian democracy can stand there and not acknowledge that the shooting dead of an unarmed man under a flag of truce, a white flag, is not a war crime. It is a war crime. If it happened in the Ukraine, they would be up in arms, bouncing off the walls and the ceiling, decrying Putin and Russia. This goes to the hypocrisy again. It's okay for you, but it's not okay for the other guy. It's okay for the other guy, but it's not okay for you. These people are beyond the pale. Sunak, there are questions over whether Sunak's even British.
James?
And let's not forget, this is just one video that happened to make it into the public domain. These people, these puppets know what's going on. They know war crimes are being committed constantly. They've just been forced to kind of speak out on this. And, he could call for they're not going to call for a ceasefire. It's just never going to happen. It's just
No,
unbelievable.
the calls for ceasefire will happen when the WEF and the people that are above politics tell them that
once the orders come through.
But again, this goes back to this is bigger and broader than just this issue. You know, everybody in that house, everybody, every single one knows that the vaccines kill people, know that the vaccines damage people permanently. They know that the vaccines change your DNA, change your genetic makeup permanently. And only Andrew Bridgen has stood up and spoken out about this. And he's asking about excess deaths. The inquiry, I blend these things together because I don't like to talk about single issues in isolation because they're not in isolation. This Parliament, by those few issues that I've just highlighted there, demonstrate that this Parliament acts against the will and the best interests of the British people and the British nation. And
that it does
for at least 80 years.
That it does. James, talking about acting against the will and the best interests of the British people, talk to me about Asda, buddy.
Yeah, Asda have now, I forget the exact amount, but they have got a ridiculous push again to go completely cashless. This includes their, oh, there we go. Yeah, there's Asda in all the glory. So yeah, includes the petrol forecourts and the tills in the huge supermarkets. Yeah, it's just, again, it's a concerted effort to get rid of the people. We're not needed anymore, unfortunately, guys. We've spoke about this previously, and Lee has some interesting thoughts on how we need to combat this and
As
how
always.
we can push back. And that's what's needed. We need to make a concerted effort to push back because we've seen it in the US, haven't we, Lee? And again, it wouldn't take that much, but I just question the will of the people to actually push back against this. I mean, the problem now with the cash thing is, I've spoke about this at length before in my monologues that I do, and the problem is it's everything's playing into convenience. You know, I mean, I've noticed in my business, cash has significantly dropped the amount of cash we get. Yeah. There's a real push every time I go into the bank, even if the fucking notes are the wrong way around, I get charged for that. It's ridiculous. You get 20 questions when you're paying in any decent amount of cash. I think it's above 4 or 5 grand now. Signing anti-fucking money laundering declarations, all sorts of crap. So yeah, I've gone off on one a bit there, but yeah.
Could I just add to that? When we were up doing the talk for common knowledge, we were doing a Ukraine special up in Edinburgh. We went to try and have dinner in Leith, and we went to this shopping centre, and there were 5 or 6 restaurants there, and every single one of them would not accept cash. So we refused to go there. Lee, you've got an even better idea, which I think is quite wonderful, and I'm well up for doing this. Shoot your shot.
Well, yeah. Firstly, Asda and the UK is going cashless, and it's going, scan your own goods. In the US, they're already moving away from this because people stood up and said no. And what I would suggest people do is, well, I'm not going to suggest this, but what I will do is I will take cash out of the bank and I will go shopping with cash. I will load my basket up with all of my frozen fresh tins, and I will go to the till. And if they say, oh, there's no till, you have to use that, I'm going to say, I've not got a card, I've only got cash. And I'm going to leave the trolley and walk away and let them put it back on the shelves and back in the freezers. And they can't do anything about that because they've made it self-service at on the aisles. There's nobody, you can't say, oh, I'll have one of them and one of them, and somebody goes and gets it, then it's yours. You pay for it. But if they're saying, go and get what you want and bring it here and pay for it, and then, oh, we're only going to accept card payment, and oh, by the way, you've got to scan it through yourself. Then
Lee, I have a question, Lee.
If everybody did that, this policy would be gone in 30 days.
Can I ask a question? Is it all right for me to go and use their staff room to have my lunch, as I seem to be working for them anyway?
Well, you can ask.
James,
just to add to that, guys, as well.
Contribution.
Yeah, just to add to that, lads. We're seeing more and more of this. Morrison's is now piloting in some of their flagship stores in that sector. Some of the superstores, they now have completely manless shopping centres. I think there's 2 now that have been trialled in the UK. Now, when I say manless, there are humans there. They're in the back, stacking this in the warehousing, and there are a couple that float around the stores near the tills when it fucks up, which happens regularly. Always, I get so frustrated with them fucking machines. But now, what they're doing now is they're doing away with the machines altogether. There are, I think, there's 2,000 something cameras around the store that are facial recognition, and that they're deeper than the facial recognition because they're now analyzing your every move, everything that you put in your basket. I mean, and this is going one step further, just to come away from the supermarkets. They're already doing this in the Amazon Fresh stores now in London. There's a few there. But this is going to go one step further because now we're actually having home fridges. I don't know if you've seen any of these fridges that are in development.
Yeah.
They actually weigh your produce. You have little holders for your milk. It weighs your milk, so it knows when you're running low. It alerts you on your app on your phone, automatically orders it to your house. It's all interlinked with
Let's
AI.
control your complete life.
That's it. Yeah. So you don't need to go anywhere because they don't want you going out. And this is all to play into this whole 15-minute cities, the digitization of everything to keep us fucking locked down, plugged into the metaverse. It's insane. And when, like Lee says, all these different dots all connect
together.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, your description of what they're planning and how they're doing it connects all the dots. So you're absolutely right.
Yep.
Just to link back, I was in Belfast Airport a couple of months back, and that was the same. You couldn't buy anything with cash. You had to buy it with card, and you had to order it at a bar or a till, and then go and sit down, and then they bring it to you. It was all on screens and touchscreen. I just refused. I just thought, right, I'll sit there and do nothing. I've only ever used those self-checkouts, I think they're called, a couple of times.
I never use them.
I've used them a couple of times because of queues, and basically, buying alcohol, it stops you anyway. You still have to have a human intervention.
Yeah, there's a great British thing though.
People need to boycott these stores and go and buy it from a local supermarket, an independent supermarket.
There's a great British thing though, Lee. I noticed that Tesco's down the road from where I live, they've got there's a big Tesco store down there. And they've got these self-service tills, and yes, you get people go through them. But you see the queues of people who are willing to wait half an hour, if necessary, to be served by a human. And it is the indomitable British spirit of, I don't care how effing long it takes, I'm getting served by a human.
We like a queue in England.
Talking of queues, we're talking about people queuing up to get in the army, Lee. Tell us what's going on with our selection in the army, will you? To our great British institution that quite a few of us have been in. What's happening here?
Well, firstly, the problem is that there's not a queue of people ready to join the army or the forces in general.
Really?
And the restrictions are very much around all of the woke crap. But this has come to light, and the MOD has admitted that this is true, that there is an extreme right-wing indicators and warnings matrix that the officer class are now talking about with regard to weeding out extremists from the military. And as you can see there, it's describing themselves as patriots.
Those pesky patriots.
Pardon?
Those pesky patriots. How dare they raise their flags?
You're looking at opponents as traitors, referring to individuals ready to challenge their extreme views as being indoctrinated, referring to political correctness as some left-wing or communist plot.
That's about right.
It's exactly what they're doing is they're challenging all of the realities of the world and wokeizing them. But again, this is a level of hypocrisy for me, that on the one hand, we're issuing stuff like this from 2017. This was issued by MOD. So in 2017, we're weeding people out of the military for having military views, patriotic views.
Well, I'm out, Lee. Lee, I have to say I'm out because Muslims Jews go to synagogues, and Muslims obviously go to pray in their own places as well. Is that a generalisation about a Muslim and a Jew that I'm going to get fired for?
Yes, Yes. And they're inverted commas, weeding people out. And then the hypocrisy kicks in. Here we are, 6 years later, and the government is talking about conscription for us to go and fight a war for all of these values, with people, and they want people in the military that are patriots, and they're using the word again now, to go and fight somebody else. But there's then an MP, a Labour MP, who says that Muslims shouldn't be conscripted because it would be a double standard for them. It wasn't that double. It would be against their views and values to go to war for Israel against Palestine. So we go, but they don't go. They can have
Russia don't have that problem. Russia don't have that problem. They all go.
They all go. But it's the hypocrisy. It's the sheer, you can't have these views. Oh, and by the way, and we're going to kick you out of the army. And oh, by the way, come back because we want you to go to war now. Well, no.
James, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's also an attack on free speech as well, whether directly or indirectly. I mean,
yes.
The part I was just reading there before it went off the screen, actually, about, I missed that when I saw it yesterday. It was about the bit where it says, it's on the right-hand side of it, where it says about open discussions about race. Yeah. Far right. Far right. Oh, dear. Got me at it now. Yeah, talk of impending racial conflict or race war. Just open discussion about potential conflicts or race wars. Can we not discuss that now? These are. I would consider that a very pressing matter if that's something that's on your mind that you're concerned about. These are things that should be discussed.
They are
just unbelievable.
But part of wokeism is about stopping those discussions.
Oh, of course.
And that creates the divides.
I think also as well, there's something I'd like to point out there very much on the WEF. If you could just bring that back up a secondly. It's in the bottom left hand. Yeah, no, it's a bottom left-hand corner that is very troubling. At the bottom, second one in, become increasingly angry at perceived injustices. They're using the word perceived. No, there are injustices or threats to so-called national identity.
This got me, this one.
Yeah, so-called. No, there is a national identity. We're called English. Americans are called Americans. Pakistanis are called Pakistanis. And Iranians are called Iranians. There is nothing wrong with having a national identity, so long as you don't abuse. Russia have a national identity. They have Jews, Christians, Muslims, all fighting together for Russia. That's a national identity. They are Russian first, and then they are whatever afterwards.
This is straight from the WEF. This is.
Yes, it is. This is straight from the New World Order and the agenda for the 21st century. But you can't have a national identity, but the Prime Minister and the government and the generals want us to go and fight for our nation's identity,
which has been massively diluted daily.
Absolutely diluted, and continues to be. And another thing, I've written to MPs about this as well. Like, if you want to go to war, then you all go first and take your fighting age males with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and get a tattoo. Fuck it.
Well, here's another one, gentlemen. This matrix that we published here, that was shown from the MOD, this is also a means of excluding people from joining the army. Therefore, their conscription model means that there will be no soldiers conscripted, because they're going to have to go to their fighting age male asylum seeker group.
But that's not allowed because it's against their human rights, mate.
It is against their human rights. They are under the protection of the United Nations. Therefore, the British Army is somewhat hobbled at this point. I wouldn't fight for this government anyway. I wouldn't fight for the Labour Party if they were in government. I wouldn't fight for the Greens or the Liberal Democrats or anybody else.
I think you're more likely.
I will fight for this country and I will fight for our people, but I will not fight for the.
I think we're more likely these days, gentlemen, to fight the government rather than fight for them, aren't we?
Yes, that's coming, unfortunately. That's part of the Civil War plan. Again, we go back to where all the dots are and where they come from. And this is not one-dimensional dots. This is three-dimensional dots. Everything connects to multiple directions and up, down, back, and forward. And within that Agenda 21 is civil war. And it could be civil war at a religious level, at a national level, at an ethnic level, at a crime and gangs level, which we've already got. And if the British went against the government, that would be a civil war as well. And we then have to ask ourselves, where will the police and the existing military come down on that? And I think we already know the answer to that with the attitude the police have had to many people over the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me something, and it's absolutely right. Tell me something. If we did go to war with Russia, Lee, would we be allowed to shoot down our own POWs?
Probably.
We had
I don't think there are any limits to the World Economic Forum's desire to kill humans and
to kick it off.
And to eliminate the carbon that they want to get down to net zero, because we are carbon. And we are
and also get a wider conflict going. I think we've got a picture of a wonderful thing that Sarah Bills, one of our co people, put up. This is from the Kiev Independent. Now let me walk you quickly through the timeline, gentlemen. The Kiev Independent, the very first moments when it was shot down, said we shot it down. Then they said we didn't shoot it down. Then they said we shot it down, but S-300s were on board. We shot it down, but IRG instructors were on board. Then they went, we don't know what happened. Then we went, we may have shot it down, but it's Russia's fault. And then they went to Russia is using POWs as human shields. Thank you for that. That's from Sarah Bills of DD Geopolitics, put that together. And if you haven't seen her stuff, please go and check it out. It's quite troubling, isn't it, Lee, that they changed like that?
Again, it demonstrates that there's a level of panic with these people now. They're losing on every front. They couldn't organise a drink in a brewery. No. They couldn't run a bath. And what this demonstrates again now is that they can't even hold a narrative together. We are winning. We're not winning quickly enough. And I think we need Donald Trump and Kerry Lake, hopefully, as VP.
And Andrew Bridgen, yeah.
To win an election, and Andrew Bridgen to retain his seat. And we need to build around people like that. And, if Donald Trump wins the presidential election in November for the third time, then cut off the money, withdraw the troops, and then start to deal with the people at the top. Withdraw that when we should all withdraw from the United Nations, from the World Health Organization, and from the World Economic Forum, and then start chasing these people for crimes against humanity.
James, they've turned around and they've said they also came out with the thing that there was no bodies and there was only Russians on board the plane, which has been completely debunked. What I'm going to do is quickly show you a video of exactly what happened. Now, the only reason we are showing this video is to debunk the narrative. Do be aware, viewer discretion is advised on that. Oh, it doesn't seem to want to play. It's too long for this, so I'll have to trim that down. We'll have that next time. What I'll do is I'll stick that up on my Telegram channel so we don't get banned, gentlemen. The video.
I know the clip you're talking about.
Yeah, the video in question clearly shows the crash site and dead bodies, James. This is more nonsense, isn't it, that they're coming out with?
Yeah, again, like you say, the narrative. I mean, yeah, it just frustrates me so much how, again, the media, the media bias with all this, the mainstream bias, again, it all plays into this whole. I just get so frustrated with it all. It's just nothing ever seems to change. It's just the one side all the time when everybody else can see what is happening here. It's just, I don't know.
The other thing as well that we need to look at is there's no doubt that a Patriot missile actually brought it down. We just have a look at this, gentlemen, if we can. This is
the malfunction, is it?
Patriot missiles in action over Kiev.
Or inside Kiev.
Yeah.
Again, this goes to, do these weapon systems even work? Is the West really streets ahead technically? Or is it just sheer incompetence by the people operating these systems?
It's sheer incompetence, James, isn't it? The Patriot missile brings down a POW plane, and now we have Patriot missiles that we know and have shown before are hitting people in Kiev and apartment blocks and roads.
Ridiculous.
This is but we need to put more billions and billions of pounds into this system, don't we?
Yeah, we need to keep that tap flowing.
Talking of flowing, let's have a little look, gentlemen, if we can. We'll see if we can cue this one up without any problems. Let's have a little look at the United States of America, and let's have a look at the Texas border for a couple of seconds, gentlemen. This is becoming quite crazy, isn't it? The Texas versus Biden administration with the flow of illegal immigrants.
It's fucking unbelievable. I mean, I know Donald Trump has now demanded all willing states to deploy the National Guard to Texas in a bid to prevent entry. But yeah, this is all orchestrated. It's all a concerted effort to keep them flowing in. I mean, what's the play here? You know, I don't know what Lee's thoughts are. Well, I kind of do, but where are we? Is this all a bid to get as many in as possible for the?
Yes.
I mean, are they going to be allowed to vote? I'm hearing rumors that they're going to be allowed to vote. We've got in certain states now, some of them, these immigrants are now police officers. You know, actual police officers with weapons.
In Minnesota. Yeah, this basically is the Biden administration at the federal level having open borders. The state level is trying to close the border with Governor Abbott, who's not exactly a patriot, but he's at least he's seen the problem. So they're trying to close that border at about time too. It is about flooding as many people into the country as possible. They are trying to register them to vote. They are trying to give them US nationality to reduce the number of illegals in the country. That's again a Democrat policy.
I see there's 25 states now have signaled support for Texas.
Yep, but the Democrats are trying to get them into the police force. I believe Minnesota's already started. They are trying to get them into the military to replace the patriots that they've forced out of the military, similar to the conversation we've just had about the British Army earlier in the program. We've got.
Speaking of the military, they're also paid more than veterans. They're given a mobile phone as soon as they come over. You know, it's
absolutely crazy.
One thing I read this morning, General Flynn has published an article where he highlights through the Constitution that the Texas and any other state has the right to go to war to protect its border. So this is not illegal. The Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court has ruled that Biden has the right to open the border, but he doesn't, because the Constitution states clearly that the individual states have the right to defend and close their border at their decision. And they've got them. That's why the National Guard comes under the control of the governor, not the federal government. And so, yes.
This is.
I mean, let's have this right. The Biden administration, they are aiding and abetting the invasion of illegal immigrants.
They're not aiding and abetting. They're managing, controlling, and ensuring the invasion of the United States. This goes back to Biden is not a young global leader, but he's compromised to such an extent, and Obama is, that they are the whole of Western politics, the whole of Western civil service is indoctrinated, is infiltrated. It is an organized plan. And I go back again. I like dots. This is one of them. We go back to the United Nations Agenda for the 21st Century and their population replacement policy program, and that is in full swing. This is what we're seeing in the Channel. It's what we're seeing crossing the Mediterranean. It's what we're seeing coming through Turkey into Europe. It's what we're seeing in the United States southern border. And let's not forget, they're also crossing the northern border. And this is an organized population replacement. When you factor in, these people are not being jabbed because they're under the protection of the United Nations. They are not going to be drafted into the army and sent off to war because they're under the protection of the United Nations. We are being jabbed. We're dying in droves, in huge numbers now, and it's going to get worse as we get around to the next disease X, which they're rolling out. It's going to get worse in the fact that they're going to send us to war. It's going to get worse that these fighting age males are going to be in such huge numbers that they're going to start taking over towns and cities, and they already are doing in some towns and cities. And
Do you think there's going to be a tipping point, Lee?
I
A
thought
tipping point in the respect of all of these things. I mean, let's just take the UK now. The things we talk about, it gets to a point with me where we just surely it's bubbling over now. Surely that like we can see everything. We've got these gender wars, we've got these fucking actual wars everywhere on so many fronts now. We've got the cashless thing. We've got so many things now. The cost of living crisis, everything. Surely there has to be a tipping point in this country where it's revolution time, where we say, right, no more now. You know, do you envisage that happening?
Honestly, no.
Me neither. No,
I don't think they got the guts.
Talking of that, gentlemen, James, please explain to me what is going on here, because this is all part of what Luke was saying. And we have this absolute lunatic woman whose name will pop up on the screen in a second.
I mean, ecocide as a word is becoming better known around the world, and the concept is generally mass damage and destruction of nature. But legally speaking, what our organisation and other collaborators aim to do is to have this recognised legally as a serious crime. Because one of the issues that sort of pervades all of this discussion is that we have a kind of cultural, very ingrained habit of not taking damage to nature as seriously as we take damage to people and property. And that, I mean, you know, if you're campaigning for human rights, at least you know mass murder, torture, all of these things are serious crimes. But there's no equivalent in the environmental space. And so, you know, unlike an international crime like genocide that involves a specific intent, with ecocide, what we see is actually what people are trying to do, what businesses are trying to do, is make money, is farm, is fish, is do all of these things that are, you know, producing energy and so on, as well. But what's missing is the awareness and the conscience around the side effects, around the collateral damage that happens with that.
James, talk to me about talk to me about genocide against mackerel, will you?
Yes. So don't worry about genocide. Let's just shelve that and focus on the farmers, shall we? Those pesky farmers. So that was Jojo Meta, WF
yes, we
member,
know her.
and yeah. And what is this ecocide? For fuck's sake, another woke term. You know, it just beggars belief. I mean, it's a new word. It's becoming better known around the world. And the concept is generally mass damage and destruction of nature. Yeah. What the fuck is going on here?
And yet they're quite happy to have these absolutely ridiculous eco trees, the new metal eco trees that they're trying to put up. Lee, talk to me about why we should be possibly talking nicely to apricots rather than eating them.
Yeah, I mean,
these people are off the charts mental.
Yeah,
this is not the first time this woman's been on. Gentlemen, I do want to point this out. I was catching up with Redacted last night, and we have already mentioned about they're coming for your gardens and trying to stop you by saying it's 5 times more damaging to the atmosphere, you growing your own food, and everything that we're joining the dots here with, you know, with the WEF and food shortages and everything else. Redacted were talking about it as well, about them coming for American gardens. So this is global. It's not just, and once again, it's colouring.
It's all an organised plan. You can go and read it. It's called United Nations Agenda for the 21st Century, of which we're in Agenda 2030. That will carry on until 31st of December 2030, when we will roll into Agenda 2040. And again, I've previously published the UK's Agenda 2050, industry by industry, what they're planning to do on this show several times. This Jojo Meta, she is just another functionary rolling out the next phase of the food crisis, which will cause the famines, which will cause this starvation event that I talk about. If you, let's take Kerry, if you reduce the food production and farming by 40% yields down because no nitrogen fertilizers used, close 30% of the farms, then you're going to be close to 50% of the food production gone. If you then ban fishing, then that's another huge amount of the food and protein in the food chain gone. These people are mental. This is about starving humanity. And again, I'll say again, this is because the carbon that they want to get rid of is us. We are.
Yeah, it's
the
them dots
F-150.
again, Lee. And then you've got the fuel issue, which we're going to be seeing. You know, it's all the dots. They don't want you living independently. They want to take that away from you, rip it away for the small amount of independence we do have now. They want to make it as difficult as possible for us, and this all plays into the agenda.
There's
Yeah,
a problem. There's a problem here, Jen.
Well, sorry, Warren. If you then add that dot in about growing your own vegetables and chickens and 5 times more damaging to the environment than official agriculture, then they're preparing the ground to go and seize anything that you grow in your garden or your land or your allotment or your little plot or your little farm.
Yeah, and what we're also doing now, I don't know if you picked up on this, sorry, Warren, just because I think it's a really good point, this. And with farmers, what they're doing now is they are actually encouraging people now to come away from food production and to come into planting the land on land, trees, all sorts now. And the government's giving grants for these to encourage it. But what they're not telling you is with regards to inheritance tax, when you was to pass on, when you have a farm, I think you'll be able to help me out on this, Lee. I heard that you don't have an inheritance tax, or it's very low or something when you was to pass, if you was to pass on, if you're doing a certain type of farming. But following the government's route, if you go down the grant route with the government, unfortunately doing it that way, you are then subject in the small print to this huge inheritance tax.
Yep.
I'm not aware of that.
Yes,
James,
you are. James is right. James is absolutely right.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Thing on this, gentlemen, we always used to have a joke with vegans when they used to say meat is murder, and we always used to turn around and say, well, what is eating eggs then? Justifiable homicide. But they're trying to get rid, aren't they, of everything. I mean, you won't be able to eat fish soon. Soon you'll just have to eat lentils, won't you?
Yeah, it's the world's oldest foods. They want to demonize the world's oldest foods, the foods that we've been eating for fucking ever. You know, all the organic, all the raw stuff. You know, they did it with raw milk. They demonized raw milk. Everyone's scared shitless of drinking raw milk now because of all sorts of shit you can get from it, apparently.
Same with eggs.
Yeah, same with eggs. Yeah, same with meat, beef. You know, what do you call it? Meat now. They're demonizing that. You can hardly ever fucking get it, to be honest. Now it's hard enough to get. What's the name for them? The grass-fed meat now. Difficult to get that now in a supermarket.
Yeah.
But mainly, talking of that, gentlemen, because we're running out of time, I want to come on to our very last story. But they normally do this testing on animals first, don't they, Lee? And what we have here, let's have a look at Barry the Beagle, because the US government has spent 2.5 million on giving beagles.
Look at the grin on that.
On giving beagles 2.5 million spent by the US government on giving beagles cocaine. Zelensky will be upset about this, won't he?
I'm sure he will. I mean, the story is actually $2.3 million, but this has got to be one of the craziest, most. I don't have words for it, to be honest. Why would you give cocaine to dogs?
James?
I don't even. I'm just fucking speechless, mate. I really am. I just don't know even where to start with this. What is going on?
I'm just wondering, gentlemen. I'm just wondering if you have that much, shall we say, cocaine up the nose, and you've been chasing lady beagles all night long, you probably want to go back to the laboratory to have a quick cigarette, don't you?
I wouldn't know, but I do believe maybe it's code word for Trudeau, Zelensky, Biden. You know, $2.3 million of aid to the Biden cocaine habit. I don't know.
Yes, I think we ought to call him Biden the Beagle from now on. Gentlemen, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you here today. And if you are listening to this show or you're watching it, lovely to have you here. Please go and subscribe to our free uncensored newsletter at the frontline.army. And also, if you like this show, you can catch it on many platforms. We'll put it up on YouTube for as long as it stays up there. And we'll also stick it on Patreon at the Real Truth 502 if you want to make a donation to what we do. It's been absolutely wonderful. James, where can people find you on your social media, buddy?
Yeah, you can either get me on Instagram, which is Real James Atkinson on Instagram, and Rumble. It's rumble.com/Truth Wars. Yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. It's been absolutely great having you here, gentlemen, but we have run out of time. So for now, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from them.
Goodbye.
If you want to see more of this, you want to see the truth, you want to watch the full show, come and join us on the Frontline.army. See you there.
Let us all unite!